Guys, every so often I'm very picky with who I bring on as far as a guest goes, just because, you know, nah, so there's a lot of people in this business that they talk a lot of shit, like they do stuff, and it's just I don't want to like drown, I don't want all that noise because it's gotten when I got started 13 years ago, there wasn't many people doing it. So it wasn't like so noisy like it is now, but now everybody's a professional. Everybody's got a YouTube channel, everybody's got social media, but not most people don't know what the hell they're doing. So with the people that we bring on, I'm very selective, make sure that they actually have a track record. And as you guys know, Logan is the guy that got us into a lot of the shit that we do right now, the high margin stuff, the messy deals, all the stuff. So I'm excited to bring him on to share his knowledge, his experience, because I think you have a pretty cool backstory. It's definitely entertaining for sure.
Thanks.
So let's just kick it off with that, Logan. Just a quick introduction and how you got started in real estate.
Okay. Well, thanks for the intro, John. I appreciate it. Yeah, and you're right. I've known you and the other John for gosh, a long time. There's a big group of us that started somewhere in the same era in San Antonio. And we were all kind of in that like era of, the last decade of real estate entrepreneur people in San Antonio. This is a really, really hot market. It was strange that it would be considered, I don't even know if it'd be a tertiary market. It was almost like unimportant. And because it was a seventh largest city in the United States, but very undervalued, it just got so much attention this last real estate cycle. So we all had, I felt like really good opportunity that we may not have had in other places. That's where we came from. But I grew up, dad was a CPA, mom was a realtor. So I was around some finance discussions and stuff about housing, and it was neat. Like a lot of kids, you look at real estate and it looks special and big, and you see these big buildings and you think the guys that are behind them are rich, and so I aspired to do that kind of stuff, but life went other directions, and it took a while to kind of become an adult, get mature, kind of get all the childish stuff worked out of the system. But ended up finding myself in the oil field. And at that time, I was earning money much better, or quicker, and more predictably than I ever had in the past. And I thought, okay, I'd inherited money from my grandparents and father. Oh, my grandparents through my father. My grandparents passed away, left a bunch of money. My dad died that next summer. So it was just came right to us. And me and my brother and sister just didn't do, we were bad stewards of it. Didn't last very long. It was quite a bit of money. But I'm back in the oil field working, thinking, man, like I'm earning money at 100 grand a year at that rate, but I'd blown over seven figures in just a couple of short years. And I realized at this same rate, it's going to take me an entire lifetime to rebuild what I blew that my grandparents gave me. And I didn't like that trajectory. Like I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to work my whole life and be cautious about spending every nickel and worried all the time. Like that sucked, man. So I was saving basically in the oil field and started buying land downtown San Antonio, um, little vacant lots, and I thought they would eventually have some value, but because they were so low priced, 5 grand a pop, I thought I can't screw this up. And because they had like streets and gutters and curbs and like utilities, like you could build a house on these lots, like they were infill lots. I thought if all goes bad and this portfolio never appreciates and nothing takes off, I could probably sell them for what I got in them and get my money back. So there's a very low downside risk. But I'd seen other downtowns like Austin exploded. Houston's seen it, Dallas, and I thought, man, if San Antonio ever gets on board, like, this could be special. And you're smiling because you played ball all around the East Side. But that's where I started was East Side, just buying $5,000 and $10,000 lots, and I picked up a couple dozen of them. And the market changed. Boom. And I don't remember exactly, but I had around 300 grand into those couple dozen lots. And I remember I got a call from a realtor, Scott Maloof, local realtor. You probably know him.
Hmm.
And he says, my client wants to buy this lot. And he offered me 200,000 bucks. And I thought, yeah, the market, and I was in the thing for 10. The market had moved, and I was busy working in the oil field, just, going by people's houses and buying these lots. So I hadn't realized the market had moved so much. And a lot of this was off market transactions. So you couldn't even see this on MLS. But, I did sell that lot and I realized I got these couple dozen lots left. Like, this is something big here. I'm no longer an oil field guy. And I got laid off right after that. So that was kind of okay.
Mm.
I got a bunch of land. I got a couple hundred grand in my pocket. I'm either going to go back to the oil field or I'm going to do this real estate thing,
The
So
real estate thing.
you know how it is because when you're starting, you're like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go flip houses. Like that's what you think, right? That's all there is.
Yeah. So you went from life kind of kicked you in your ass, right? It was like, hey, you're out of the oil field. It's not even up to you. You're done with this, uh, and you're sort of forced into real estate. Like, how did you even get? Because I'll bring this up in a little bit when you share your piece, but like you brought up pretty much how you got started, and you didn't get started like I guess most people typically do. So like where was it? Like did you just keep buying land, or what was it that you decided to focus on when you got started in real estate?
So I like that direction. So the next step was, okay, am I going to go to the oil field again, go get another job, or am I going to do this real estate thing? And I remember taking 2, 3 days off, just chilling, exercising, getting a lot of sleep, just trying to make sure whatever decision I made was not a rushed or snap decision. And I felt really good and calm, especially I had 200 grand in my account, which is the most I'd ever had because I'd earn money and then buy more land, earn money, buy more land. I never had that much except for way in the past when I inherited it. So at that point, I just kind of looked around, thought, all right, I guess I'm going to flip some houses. I guess I'm going to go to these foreclosure sales. I didn't really know at the time, but one of the most important things that did happen is I decided to sell some of those lots that I had because I knew the market was hot now. So one of them I went to go sell and I realized I had a big title problem. There were 9 owners on that one, and I bought one of the deeds, and I've been paying 5 to 10 grand for all these lots. I gave the dude 5 grand. He gave me a deed. He's like, I ain't going to a title company. Come to my house. I'm like, this asshole. And that title companies, I never had a title claim. I bought, a couple dozen transactions. And now I know why he wouldn't go to a title company because he was one of like 9 owners. But when I went to sell that one, I found that out. And I
Mm.
spent that summer going to a lawyer's office, paying him, asking him questions. He'd tell me, all right, go try this next. And it was this process of like, aggregating all of the ownership. There were judgments and liens. Once I got all the owners, I bought the deeds 500 to $1,000 at a time. Once I got all the deeds collected, recorded them, did a big affidavit of heirship. But then when we ran a TBD commitment at the title company to see if the title was clean, there were several judgments and liens. One of them hadn't paid some like a credit card company or something, but the other one was child support. And I remember thinking, shit. So their liens were stuck to my property because when they ran the title report, they were now the owners that sold to me when we put that affidavit of heirship in play. Well, now I had to go and negotiate those judgments and liens and just get them cleaned up. But I remember after that happened, I still sold the lot for like 125,000 bucks. So I was still in the money. And whenever that was, when I was finished with that, when I thought I was flipping a couple houses at the time, and man, flipping those houses was hard, dude. I'm always at Home Depot trying to pick out the right color white, and do I replace the toilet or do I reuse it? Like, man, those are harder decisions than you think, dude. And I
I agree.
specifically remember thinking, I always thought back to that summer over the next couple deals and thought, I wonder if I just go buy some more lots, why don't I go resell them? And when I was knocking on all those doors, all those people wanted like top dollar. They knew the market had moved. But what I did notice when I was looking through all those lists, I had tons of handwritten lists or in Excel. I noticed the only ones that didn't sell are the ones that had lots of taxes and like the ownership problems. It was owned by like a dead guy from 20 years ago. And I remember thinking, those haven't sold. They only sold because they can't. Otherwise, they would have been selling. So I remember then thinking, and this was the first time I intentionally went and thought, I wonder if I can offer them small dollars for their ownership one at a time. And that summer, it was 2016, 17, maybe. That's when it was intentional and I sought that out. That's when this business model like took shape.
Damn. Like it's just what I like about your story, to be honest, is like I meet so many, and I've had the privilege of training a lot of people so far, but like everybody gets into real estate like I want to do this. And I'm like, I get it, but how about you make money first? And then
Bingo.
how about we focus on making money? Let's actually make money. Then you can do whatever the fuck you want. It doesn't matter at that point, right? But like everybody comes in with that idea of like, what's the sexy, but I want to flip houses. I'm like, but I make more money than you without flipping them. Like, why do you want to flip houses? Why do you even want to have rentals that pay you $100 a month? Like, these are all the shit that I learned from you. Like when you said like, so you can
We're here
make
to make
200,
money. We're here to make
yeah,
dollars.
yes, dollars. That's a great way of putting it. And one of the biggest lessons I got, like because you launched your mastermind that we jumped in, right? Well, what has it been like a year or two already? Been
Oh,
a
dude,
while.
no.
3 years.
Yeah, it's been like,
3 years.
yeah, at least three. Yeah,
Yeah. So
been a
when we
while.
did that, like it was one of your first calls. And I remember you saying, and I don't know if it was you and a partner that you started with, or was it just you by yourself? But you were like, until you had hit like 300 grand or 400 grand a year, then you're like, okay, I feel like I got something now. And I was like the light bulb went off because we had people on our team and we weren't making any money. And I was like, that's the problem. I don't know how to make money. What the hell am I bringing people on? And that felt like that was something that you were so smart in doing. It's like you learn to make the money yourself first, a lot of it, and then you're like, I got something here. Where I feel like a lot of people, they're like, I'm gonna get into real estate. Let me hire VAs, let me hire callers, let me hire dispo, transactional. And I'm like, but you haven't made a penny yet. Like, why are you hiring all these people already? So like, can you elaborate like pretty much on how you
Yeah.
started, like how that ramp up went?
I was scared to hire other people. As I started making money, it was happening and it was going to the bank account. But I remember thinking, am I going to be able to continue doing it like this? Like, I mean, this is a lucky summer, a lucky winter, or is this going to continue? And I went through for about a year, maybe a year and a half, and it was continuously happening the same way. So I remember thinking, okay, this isn't a fluke. This is real. I can do this. And then I remember looking across the county, then looking at other cities and saying, does this condition exist, more than just here? Well, first off, I think I can repeat this. All right, now I can depend on me. Can I depend on the market? Can I depend on the world? And I realized there were a lot of the situations everywhere. And I thought, okay, there's more than enough runway. So if I start trying to grow something, I'm not going to run out of runway. So after I got it figured out, then first thing was, and the other thing, a lot of people start to hire by employee. And I was afraid because that caused a commitment, and at that point, the business wasn't working. Today, I could not go to the office for 2 months and take some phone calls here and there. And there are 20 people. Like we got genealogists, lawyers, title company in our office. Like it is cranking. But back then, if I didn't go, it wouldn't happen. And I remember thinking, I got to pay people. And if they don't produce, how's this going to work? So the first person was Ryan McDonald. He was, well, technically, let me back up. Bill and I started doing foreclosures together, and he was a little more experienced than I was in business and a little bit better capitalization than me. And at that point, we decided to join forces. I had a lot more time. He was running a CPA firm. He had more capital experience. So every decision that I made helped to be improved by him. And I didn't have to deal with the finance side of this as much. I could worry about the operation, find a deal, make the deal work, make us profit. You fiddle with the bank account. When we need credit lines, you fiddle with that. When we get to the point where like this becomes a real thing, I want you to fool with that stuff. And he did. But the first employee is really a partner. We brought on Ryan, and I trained him for about 6 to 12 months just next to me. And as he got good, I remember telling him, you're going to eat what you kill. I'm going to take half, you're going to take half, but I'm going to use the money and I'll teach you my way. And over that first year, he got really good. And at that point, he could do his deals with me and Bill's capital in the office next to me. And he was rolling, but if he had a real problem, he could walk back over and get the answer.
Mm.
And we're still partners today, but I continued to grow that. So after Ryan, we had to get an administrative person because my time was maxed out, his time was maxed out. And I got to the point where I could generate between 750 and a million a year, but I'm working 7 days a week, every day, all day. And when you got no money, you'll trade every moment you have. When you start to get money, you're willing to trade less time as you get exhausted. So at that point, We started to hire administrative, brought on a few more partners, and that is the way we decided to grow with very productive people who earned a share. But like Ryan kept his job for a year while he was working with me.
Right. So in what I think what's important with what you're saying, it's like that's your trajectory for you to go from that first getting started to now you're hiring and you got partners and you're doing all this. It wasn't 3 months. And the reason why I bring that up, because like
Wow.
there's a lot of people that get started 3, 6 months and they tell me, but John, I've been at this for 6 months, or I've been at this for a year. And I'm like, okay, you're just getting started.
Dude,
Like, what do you want me to tell you? Keep going. Right. So like what was it about it that just kept you in it? Like you didn't have that, I guess that like exit time frame.
I was hungry. I mean, and I also think what I was doing was like complicated. Like, as you know, you've done it a lot. You can't just hire a random person and toss them out there and hope it works. So there was a lot of like figuring out. And in this business, you can learn how to make money fairly quickly. But there's also all these other layers of complexity of legal matters, of ownership matters. It can get really deep. And I started to scratch the surface in the beginning. But as I started to grow, I had more capital, I had more, I don't know, aptitude for risk. Like I started out on these $1,500,000 deals. And as we started to climb, 200,000, 400,000, a million, 3 million. We got a $6 million deal right now. Like it started to grow and I wanted to get better, but there's still more and more you've got to learn as you really develop that. So I just continued. I continued to stay in the middle of the trenches until about 2022 is when I started to back out of it. But by that time, we've got AR, AP in our office. I've got a full time assistant. There are 5 partners there in the office. You know, total headcount's 20. Like, and these partners have now been there between 3 and 5 years each. Like they're good. Frankly, one of them's better than I am now. Like that is a goal that you want, but it's hard to get.
Well, it's funny because even you bringing that up, I heard this recently with people, they want to be the smartest person in the room and especially in their own office. And it makes no damn sense. It's like let your ego out of the way. You want to hire people that are damn near as good or better than you because that's how businesses grow. Like it's not by you being the sharpest tool in the shed there, right? So I think it's cool how you nurture that kind of environment even in your office.
It's really tough
So
because getting a person who's probably better than you or can develop better than you, it's tough to recruit them because they're looking at you thinking, why am I going to go work for you? But I think the key for me is finding people that were younger. They had the potential to do better than me, but they hadn't gotten there yet because they were younger and inexperienced. So if I could spot it in them, then I could offer them the capital, the training in a good place, and then they could develop with us. And yeah, one of the guys right now has 140 properties in inventory. That's not like a rent house portfolio. That's his freaking distressed real estate inventory, Kyle.
holy crap.
140 properties in inventory. They're
Well, I mean,
all
he's a beast though. Yeah.
he's an absolute machine, man. He's taken it further than I ever expected. But the neat thing is, what keeps us together is he still runs into legal problems here and there, or a legal project that we have will be tapped out of those attorneys' experience, and we'll need somebody else. Like we've got something that may go to the Supreme Court. What's he going to do? I've spent years building huge relationships with some of the best attorneys in our state, and I can pair us with somebody like we just sued Universal City and prevailed, like
Mm.
literally a city, a municipality. But I've got built a huge network of attorneys, so I can call and place the right one immediately, and I've got the credibility. So like those are the things that you've got to work with these partners. I still have to have an advantage that he cares about. Otherwise, why does he want to keep working with me, right?
Oh, I completely agree. But even then, I think there's still something about you that is appealing for them to stay with because with 140 deals in the pipeline and everything, like he can figure most of this shit out. Like if he really wanted to, but there's a convenience and I think like even John and myself, we've always talked about this. Like we could essentially go on our own ways, but then it's just not even fun anymore. You know, when you're
That's
doing this
true.
shit by yourself, like it gets to a point where
Yeah,
like you make above a certain amount of money, like the house will get nicer, the car gets nicer, but like it doesn't like your lifestyle doesn't. You get what I'm saying? Like it's not. Like I love
Yeah,
having this. Like even just today, I was on my way back from an investor, and he calls me, and we're talking about a deal that we're looking at, and all this. Like that kind of camaraderie. Like
it's fine.
you're doing it by yourself. It's
Yeah.
just fucking boring. Who you need to talk to?
You're right. You're absolutely right. Having those wins, getting excited again, having people have huge wins. Some of our acquisition people have killer years. One of them did like 250,000 bucks last year. We literally got to watch him go from selling Sprint cell phones, and one of them was a chef. Went from making 50 grand a year as a chef to making nearly 200 grand a year with us the next year. That is a fun and exciting thing. Now, obviously, as he earns more, I'm obviously earning more. But dude, it's incredible to watch this stuff happen in our office, and it's a really fun place to be.
I agree. So what does your business look like right now? Like you showed us where you guys started and everything, but where's it at right now?
So that's a really fun thing to examine because as we get into this stuff, any new business line, specifically these messy type deals, what most matters most is how do you find the deal? How do you make the deal happen? How do you make the money? How do you do the deals? And at some point, you can continue to stay a deal guy forever. And that's great. You'll make more money than you would being a dead gum doctor. But if you look at it as a business and build a business that does those and just look at properties as widgets, we look at them as widgets when we talk to the bank. We look at them as widgets when we're dealing with the accountants. It's just a matter, it's a piece of inventory. And when you detach from the real estate and talk about this business, that's when you can really build something like radical. I never made more than 750 to a million. And like I said, I never made more than three-quarters to $1 million a year myself. But when I started bringing partners in, dude, let's just do the simple math. I own between 25 and 50% of every business in my office. If Ryan makes $1 million a year, if I have the smallest shares of his business, 25%, I'll make a quarter million. I got 5 partners. So as these things start to develop, dude, Kyle has like 14 million worth of inventory that probably cycles within 12 months. His inventory, he's paying about 30 cents on the dollar for it. So you can do the math, what my share of that is.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. But to get beyond that level, you've got to say, okay, I've figured out how to do these deals really good. I know them in and out. I've got my finances in order. Or if I don't, how do I do that? I got to get a good CPA, got to get a good bookkeeper. We need to be cranking out um, financial statements and books 15 days, close the month out 15 days after the month closes so we can have good current financials to make business decisions on. Once you have that, you take it over to your bank. Your bankers start treating you seriously and they'll allow credit lines and other financing opportunities. And then you've got to start to have like the legal, that kind of professional service is really important. But you've got to start to build, like you need administrative, because if you have deals, just guys just pounding deals, dude, they're leaving a trail of paperwork behind them, creating documents, recording deeds, paying property taxes. Oh, they forgot a signature from someone. They just found out there's a new owner. We got to go buy that seventh person because we didn't know when we bought the first six. There is a pile of paperwork behind them. Oh, someone took the lockbox off that house and now my people can't get in when they're trying to be shown by realtors. Like the fucking list goes on. But building up support staff and operation is to me the next level of this business. Everybody
Mhm.
go down there and do good, earn money. When you first start doing it, you make yourself a couple hundred grand a year pretty quickly. From that, the next step, phase one is learn how to do the deals, make the money. Phase two is get to where you are optimized. And there are a lot of people that might not be optimized yet, even though they're proficient at doing deals. You need to get to where you can make 500,000 to $1 million a year by yourself with only one assistant. That's level two. When you get to that point, do it for a year or so. Then you say, all right, let me build an operation if you want to. Some people don't. But for me, I was ready to do that. So the next step is building an operation.
So when you're building an operation, right, you're taking it to that next step. What is the first hire? Like, what does that operation look like? The first, second, third hire. You don't have to get like two because I know it's nitty gritty, but like 50,000 foot view of it. Like, what's that escalation look like?
To me, deal makers are the highest priority. You need money and you need dudes that can do deals. And if you're missing either one of those, the other one won't matter. We used to split people up. Some would do research, someone would do the acquisitions, the sales or whatever. And we started to find our most productive people were guys more like me, not the best salesperson, but could really make a deal work and could also was bright enough and interested enough to do the research. So we collapsed that role and brought in basically acquisitions people and would train them. To me, that is the highest priority because you as an owner, if you can get a couple people in those roles and get them producing, you can step back and do some of the administrative stuff while they're producing and test them. Take a freaking breather because you've been working hard. Let them do their thing. Let them earn good money. And as you step back, you say, okay, I need to get an administrative person, someone that just handles all the stuff in between, paying bills, property tax statements, ordering surveys, calling a new genealogist because the old one we were working with doesn't work anymore. Just all that little crap to fill in the blank. So for me, I would start out with my to-do list and write it all down on a big old piece of paper. And the deals that I was the only person that could do, I would circle because that's me. I need to do that. And once I would do that, I would look at everything else and say, can anyone else even come close to doing these? And if the answer was, I would give that to the administrative person. So really,
Mm,
it is getting deal people in place and starting to add administrative behind that. But I can't emphasize enough that as you're doing this stuff, you start to bring in checks like 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, like 200, $300,000 in a single deal. And some people go get crazy and buy like Lambos and shit and start like, don't fucking, dude, this is these deals are small cash usually, but when you get five of them, it's still dollars. Like you need
mm,
the money. So that was a big thing for the first 5 years. We lived off of between 50 and 100 grand salaries. And no matter how much we were making, we're just plowing the money right back in the business. And it built a huge amount of equity, but we never had to turn away a deal, like
mm.
a good deal. So you
So
see how that?
that's impressive. So you didn't increase your lifestyle for a
Mm-mm.
while, right? Like right now, I mean, I love I'm even looking at your ceiling and I'm like, fuck, that's a badass ceiling.
Oh,
But like
shit is popping now. This is a whole different ballgame.
yeah.
This is the first time I will say this. I never imagined this in my life. Like, wow. But it's been a long time coming. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No. But that I think that's very important to do because like what I'm seeing with a lot of people that get into real estate is they get bored very quickly, right? Like they'll close one or two big deals and then they're like, all right, what's next? I'm like, no, what do you mean what's next? Like
Keep
you keep
going.
going. Yeah, you just got started. Like this means nothing. You know, like
Right.
until you can like repetitively do this, you're nowhere. Like you haven't done shit. You don't have anything yet. You know, you it's not repeatable. You don't know if you can scale it. You don't know what the hell you're doing, right? But immediately it's the vacation, it's the I call it the wholesaler Lambo, which is the Corvette that everybody gets. It's the wholesaler Lambo now. You know, so it's like you got all these luxuries, and I'm not saying don't have luxuries because right now you've been able to treat yourself to an amazing lifestyle, but it's the discipline that you had at first to just keep throwing it back in the business, right?
So you made a really good point. When you get to a certain level of income, I don't think your lifestyle really changes much. Like early on in my life, I hadn't made huge income. When I went to the oil field, I was making between 100 and 150 grand a year. Frankly, well, and also that was 10, 15 years ago, so things are changing, but that was more than enough money to live a comfortable lifestyle, put some money away for retirement. I'm not worried about bills. I got extra cash sitting around. Like that is great. I got to the point where when you're living off a couple hundred grand a year, I mean, yeah, any more than that, and you can afford a nicer car, but the car still gets me to work. It doesn't fly me to work. It doesn't fix my hair on the way. Like it's not doing anything different than transportation. And I felt like it was a waste of money. It was inefficient to buy the $20,000 F-150 or the $70,000 F-150. Like I just got 50 grand more stuck in this truck that still gets me to work, man.
Yeah.
So that's why I really was, to me, it made it easy to keep the lifestyle down because I didn't care. You know, this business was like, it's the golden goose, man. It needs to be the priority.
I love it. I obviously I completely agree. I have a 2017 F-150 and I'm like it's fucking beautiful. Like it runs great. It does everything I needed to do. When I need something else, then I'll get it. But just because like it makes no sense. One thing I did want to hit on is you do these messy deals. Can you break down what what does that even mean? Like what does that look like? Is it just foreclosure deals? Like what does that mean?
Well, as you know, foreclosures are a great place to find them, but I'm looking for something that can't be sold with title insurance. So the deals that get kicked out of title, that lots of owners that are feuding and can't get along together. You've got judgments and liens that outvalue the property, missing probates, they're in bankruptcy. Like y'all have seen deals that just couldn't close through title, and people say, F it, I'm going to walk away. That is literally our calling card. But there's so many different ways you can find those. You can search um, court records like dockets. You can search the land records for judgments. Like there's a lot of ways to do it. But after a couple of years, I remember thinking I was sitting there looking at a financial statement one time, and I was itemizing where each deal came from. And one of the places I used to get some of my best deals are for green wholesalers. They would just leave money on the table and sell it to me low, and I just buy it and resell it. But the next one behind that, I noticed was no matter where the source, it had property taxes owed on it. And I remember starting to triangulate this information. And I itemized that or identified that property that's delinquent on taxes doesn't have a mortgage usually. Otherwise, the lender would pay the taxes. So if it doesn't have a mortgage, it's got more equity. I'm like, oh wow, that's why I've got so much spread in these deals. And then I started to look at each of the last 10 deals, 15 deals I did and said, let's talk about the anatomy of this for a minute. And I started to find that most of them were inherited. So I realized the first generation parent bought the property, paid it off, and when they passed away, their child inherited a mortgageless transact or mortgageless property. But the child is not a good steward of real estate. They're not paying the bills, they're not keeping it up, and that's why you have these types of properties everywhere. And people drive by and see it's 7 acres with a shitbox house, at the on the outer loop of town. They see it's a piece of crap. I'm looking at it like I can buy this for 20 grand, sell it for 175 and make a lick. And
Yeah.
they miss that. But that year is when I realized the delinquent tax list is the absolute best list because you can count on most of them have title problems. Go look delinquent. And that way we could stop doing all of these other fancy searches.
Well, and what I love about the strategy is the focusing and the specializing. It's one of the things that all the guys here know that what we focus on is specialize. Don't, generalize. Like everybody wants to. I hear all these people that always brag about how many deals they do. Well, deals. It's mostly contracts, but they close like half of them, if not less. And it's
Yeah.
like 5 grand, 10 grand, 15 grand, 5 grand. And I'm like, that's fucking miserable. Like I had a guy flex on me on Instagram before because he's like, "Oh, I did 1.2 million with 91 deals." I was like, "Jesus." I was like, first, I applaud you for having the systems to be able to handle 91
Yeah.
deals. Secondly, I hate your business. Like I would never want to do that shit ever in my life, right?
That's a
But
complicated business. It's got to be a
yes,
well-oiled machine. Woo.
that's what I'm saying. Like I commend them because I was like, that's impressive. Like that's 91 transactions. Like Jesus, title, buyers, sellers, like all of that shit. Like that's impressive. I would hate that though. Like to me, it's miserable. But what you do that's different is more, you always call it spearfishing, right? Instead of just hoping for the best, you go in and you target very specific properties. Is that about right?
Yes. You know what? One of the guys in my office, his name is Dave. He's been a partner of mine now for almost 5 years. I was worried. I didn't think Dave was going to make it. He was flipping used cars and playing video games that sold tokens or some shit before he came to work with me. He was my business partner's stepbrother. And I'm like, this dude ain't got it. Whew. Well, long story short, he do got it. He worked with us for a while. He learned it. The guy is incredible. And he doesn't want to work too hard, man, but he's figured out how to make great deals. And he doesn't make tons of offers. Last year, he did 17 deals. That's like what, 1.5 deals a month? Like, that's not crazy at all. I mean, his profit was 2.1 million and he never used more than 700,000 in peak capital to do that. So he was like buying, selling, the capital is rotating, but
Yeah.
Dave never used more than three-quarters of $1 million and made over 2 million on 17 deals. So if you do the math, let's see, what is that? 2.1 million divided by 17. I know he's making
123,000 a deal.
bam, dude. over 100 grand a deal. Now he saw $50,000 deals and decided not to do them
Mm,
because he's like, he works from 9 to 4, 4 days a week. That's just what he chooses. But he says, I'm not willing to take any churn, any bullshit in this business. I'm going to do just the best deals I can find. And another really smart thing that he does, Kyle, if it smells like a fucking deal, he wants it. That's why he has so many properties in inventory. But Kyle will take any mess of any deal. It's got 15 heirs, it's got a minor, it's got a probate from a different state. Kyle's like, sure, let's do it. And I only make 40 grand, sure. Like, dude, I can't control the guy. But Dave wants the deals to be just dirty enough to get a really good deal so you can get that low, low price, but not so dirty that it's just like a puzzle for life. So he picks, I would say, relatively clean, dirty deals and make sure they have over 100K spread. And he's on cruise control, man. Dave's knocking out 2 mil a year. Now, I'm going to reiterate earlier when I was talking about how to build a business model. I own 25% of his business. Bill owns 25%. Dave owns the other 50%. Dave's never put a dollar into that business. Me and Bill funded it and got it going. 5 years in, we've gotten all of our capital that we invested. We've been returned our capital. And last year did 2.1 million. So you do the math, 25%. I made about 500 something thousand bucks out of that deal. And I had one meeting a month for an hour to go over financials. That's what, to me, 5 years into a well developed, stabilized, built business should look like. And it can be done on these messy custom deals that people don't think you can do it on.
well, and that's I think the value that you bring of again, you specialize, you have a very unique knowledge set that's the value you bring to your partners, right? Like you bring that because he doesn't want to do what you do, right? He wants to do what he
Nope.
does, which is just that piece. He's still walking away with a fucking $1 million. Like, dude,
Right.
that's not a bad year, right? Like he's doing
You're right.
amazing. So I think that and I think that greed a lot of people have of like 50%, you're out of your damn mind. Really? How
You know
much are you
what,
making
Bill?
right now?
Right. Well, when I first started early on and I went to go join my first partner, Bill, my mom was like, you're going to give up 50% of the business to him. And I'm like, Mom, my business isn't worth shit. But if this guy's way richer and smarter than me, if we build something together, it's my half is probably going to be worth more than whole right now. And Dave doesn't have to fool with finance. He doesn't have to fool with legal. When stuff gets to that point, he passes it off to us and we'll take a phone call or we'll put the right person on it, solve it. He's a deal dude through and through. Doesn't have to worry about it. So for him, like, why would he build the other part of the business that he doesn't want to build, you know?
Yeah. So now I do have students all over the country. So do you notice a commonality of when because you've also taught people all over the country as well. Like,
Yeah.
do you see something that's like, hey, these markets are better, or these states? Is there, or do you feel like the thing that you could do it everywhere? Like, what do you see?
Some states you can't do it because of the way the laws work. Now, here's what I mean by that. In Texas, you and I got lucky starting real estate here. This is a great environment. We have high property taxes, which means property can't sit stagnant for long. We also have alternatives to probate, which would be affidavit of heirships. Those are the two most important parts. Some states like Florida don't allow affidavit of heirships to transact property. You must do a probate, whether there's a will or not. You have to do an administration of that person's estate. And why I don't like that is it takes a long time because you've got to get a lawyer, go into court. You have to keep some of the family members involved. And if you're buying them out at a low price, once you get into probate court and start going through all this, they have plenty of time and education, so they might want to back out on you. But when you're going to other states, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, we've done deals in the other states that are alternative to probate states. But like we stay out of California, we stay out of Florida. There's a bunch of them that require probates. Don't even touch it. That's a
Mm,
very big one. Then, like Michigan, I think Michigan, I haven't done a deal in Michigan, but I was reading about the other day. I think it allows affidavit of heirships, but the problem is their property tax rate's so low.
oh,
So they don't pay property tax for 10 years. They only owe 1,500 bucks. Like that's not an incentive to cause the transaction.
yeah.
So
That
if
makes sense.
anybody is looking at their state particularly and saying, ooh, do I want to do my state? Do I want to try a different state? Go Google search real quick and make sure an affidavit of heirship is allowable in your state. And then look at your property tax rate. just because you don't have, I mean, just because you don't have top tier property taxes like Texas doesn't mean it's a deal breaker. You just want to have decent property tax debt.
Okay. Now you bring up a good point because I have a partner, Kyle. He's in St. Louis, and when somebody dies in St. Louis or in Missouri, you can't do an affidavit of heirship um, for a year after the from
Right.
when the person died. And what we find that's somewhat challenging in some states is finding decent attorneys. Like finding these
Oh,
attorneys, like it's just, man, I swear, like sometimes I just want to wring their necks because I'm like, dude, what the fuck have you been doing all this your whole career? So is there I don't know, a technique or something that you do to find these attorneys?
let me take all y'all back to a time in your life where you were in your early teens and you were dating. How frustrating that was. Maybe some of y'all are still dating. I don't know. Getting a good attorney is like fucking dating. And I mean, I enjoyed dating when I was young because, men enjoy that thrill of the chase probably much more than women do. But when I got into my like late 20s, I'm like, this is a pain in the ass, dude. Like, I'm ready to chill and not do this anymore. Attorneys are like dating. You've got to meet them, you've got to test them out, and then you got to fire them until you find the good ones. Now,
Mm.
in some of the states we operate in, we've got a really good group of like the ones that we have tested ourselves. Um, but there ain't no hack for that, dude. I will,
Yeah.
you know what? I will tell you on the legal side though, I put lawyers into three categories. The small, like, onesies and twosies, where they might have a lawyer or two in their office and maybe a paralegal. They're small shop, they hang their own shingle. They're lower price per hour, and they might be good lawyers, but they're really bad at business. So they don't return calls quickly or chase them around all the time. They don't have bandwidth, like they can't take a case to trial, things like that. That's the small shop. I stay away from those. Then you've got the big law firms, like the statewide law firms, like the big ass ones. Some of them are national or across the United States. Those are going to be at the top end of the price point, and they're going to have hundreds of lawyers, and they're going to operate in many states, and they're going to be badass, and they will have lawyers to throw at your deal and knock it out. Problem
Mm.
is, they're going to be billing you in just minute increments almost, and they ain't cheap. Now, the people I like is the middle, the decent sized that operate usually in one, like for example, one of the ones we work with in Texas a lot, they're based out of Austin, Houston, and Dallas. They have like 175 attorneys. They've got experts in all different departments, but man, they can throw a couple associates on work and just bang it out. They will answer your calls. They got secretaries. Those mid-sized law firms for me are the best. They're not going to be that much more expensive than the small ones, but they got bandwidth, dude. Think about hiring the small contractor to go do a job or hiring like the monster one. The monster one just rolls it, dude. That's the
Right.
difference.
Yeah, they can throw more people at it. They can get it done much faster. Yeah, that
Quality
makes sense.
people, everything.
So you advise people that let's say maybe are in a shitty state in order to do these types of deals, you recommend that they just do it what virtually in another state or move.
Yeah, no, virtually. Kyle is the first partner of mine that just went haywire and just like, lit the state on fire. I stayed in Bear County because that's what I knew. And then I started doing some deals in Austin because I knew the market. Well, we got tested with a couple deals in other counties. And I remember specifically doing a deal in Dallas. It was worth about 400 grand. And we're going to there was 20 grand owed taxes, and we were going to pay $20,000 for an owner to buy 100% of the property. And my partner Bill's a CPA, mega risk averse. He's like, you need to get out there and walk it, blah, blah, blah. And I remember that moment getting mad. This is like one of our first arguments. I'm like, you go fucking walk it. The land is worth 250, the house is worth 100. I can't fuck this up if I tried. Like what we're buying is worth 30% of the land value. I'm not driving to Houston. I'm gonna close this deal with a mobile notary. And if you want to go to Houston, you can. But by the time you get back from Houston, I'm gonna have it on MLS. And that marked a big change in our business. So
Mm.
what I tell people now, if you're looking at going to another state, we do it across the state in other states. And if you're buying cheap enough, send Home Jab to go take pictures or send a realtor out there. If you're that worried that you might have a problem, you're probably paying too much. Get your price down and get someone out there. You'll probably be okay. I got
So
deals. I got in every state, all over the place. I don't even never seen any of them.
it just doesn't matter. The spreads are so big that who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's pretty much a process, right? You spearfish these very distressed properties, find out who's on title, who's next up at, and you skip trace them and call them? Like, what do you do? Direct mail?
We never do direct mail. So we found that it's about 20 to 30 contacts to get a deal done. And when you're doing wholesaling, you're using like lots of big data and lots of churn. So you've got to call hundreds of people and get this 5% return rate. With us, we're looking at property that's on a delinquency list of some sort. We'll then search and find usually the owner's dead. We'll find the owners, the heirs listed in the tax docket or in a obituary or ancestry.com. Once we find them, we'll research about 30 to 40 at a time, like properties. Then we'll put them into the CRM. Then we'll have someone go through and research. And once we've identified the owners, we'll go in and research the contact information, skip trace them, and dump it into our CRM for each person. Now that you have, let's say, I don't know, 3 owners per deal, and you've got 30 deals, you've got 90 owners in your CRM, 3 per deal or whatever it comes out to be. Now you've got a good amount of research. All right, research is done. Let's get on the phone the rest of the week. We can sit down, cozy up, get our coffee, get our headphones, and like just bang away at that phone. And by the time you
Mm,
get through 20 to 30 calls, one of them is going to work. So we,
I
we
love
kind
it.
of do it in processes like that.
Yeah,
Otherwise, what will happen is you'll research or find a deal. Then you'll get all the information about it. You'll start calling them. You'll try to negotiate it. It doesn't work. Then you start over. You find the deal. You research it. You go through this. It's not efficient, but while you got TLO up, you're just researching, cut, copy, paste, research, cut, copy, paste. It's so much more efficient that way.
it makes sense. Um, so I got some people that have some questions, but before we get into the questions, what's something I haven't asked you that you feel is important?
That goes into the question that I was wanting to bring up because Logan, you
How
got
do
a
you know
very
it goes into your question?
well, it's not a
You
question. It
know
was
what
something.
Logan thinks is
No, no, no,
important.
no, no. It wasn't a question. It was a methodology that he has that you don't hear from other people that have heard you talk about into your dollar per hour and not getting distracted by going after that extra little profit by flipping a house when you can just burn it and turn it. Because that's why I was never connecting with you and your method 5, 6 years ago when you're like, why don't you just turn around and sell it? Because I was buying at market value. I wasn't getting it below market value. I was buying it at market value, renovating to catch that little profit. And you're like, what's your dollar per hour on that? So you have a very interesting perspective on that most people don't talk about of basically like stepping over dollars to pick up pennies that I would like you to kind of go over because that's a great piece for
I
people.
remember our discussions when we were at the racquetball court talking about that. So it's very hard to turn away a deal. Like I got a deal right here in front of me that I can go flip this house and make 30 grand. And you know it. And you know that neighborhood and you got the contractor because y'all would say that. I got the money lined up. I know the neighborhood, I got the contractor. And I'm like, fuck, I've made this mistake, which is why I know, but I only made it so many times. I remember I'd get involved in that deal and you just get sucked into a house flip. Even if you had a contractor and a designer and everybody, you still get sucked in and it's a lot of stuff to do. The moment you contract it, you got to do some research on the values. You got to do a scope of work for the contract. You start having to do all these things. And I remember thinking when I would do, to me, these annual reviews do a lot. I sit down and look at my year end and ask myself what deals were the best, what were the worst, what research did I do that I liked, what market did I like the best, what things did my company do that was good, what sucked. And I just remember getting these clumps of deals that were house remodels or required any amount of like construction even. And I just remember I would see them on my books for 3, 4, 5 months and I might make 30 grand, but I look at these other deals that I have on my books for 60 days and I make the same money. And I remember thinking, dude, I got to analyze this. So I started to look at how many hours I would roughly put into a house flip and how many hours I would put into like a wholesale or a messy title deal. And one of the deals I bought and just immediately resold it, I remember calculating I was making like $10,000 an hour, some shit like that. I literally put 6 hours in it, true 6 hours, and I made 60 grand on it. That's $10,000 an hour. And I remember this house flip that I made 50 or 60 grand on, but it took me 5 months and I'm, paying invoices and picking out paint, all the bullshit. And I did the math and it was like $400 an hour or something. And when I remember that specific event where I was doing that review and I just thought, this is stupid. I remember saying it like this: I'm never flipping a house again. And then that next month, I'm in the trenches in the deal flow. I look at one and I was like, ooh, this wouldn't be a bad house flip. And I remember saying, you know what? I told myself I'm never doing a house flip again. And that's specifically my revenue did change when I was choosing better projects. I could see efficiency of our entire group at that point improve. But it's really hard when you got that deal right in front of you. They're ready to sign. And
You
you're
know,
going to walk away from 30 grand.
yeah. And I think I'll be honest with you, man, like that's something that I attribute to some of my success is that like I stopped letting my feelings get involved. So when I hire a
How
coach,
did you do that though, John? Because you guys, when you'd have a deal in front, I talked to y'all about it. You have a deal and you don't walk from that flip, you do it, and you're like, but everything's all ready. But like, what changed in your mind for you to say, no, no, no?
I mean, it was that exact analysis of just like dollar per hour. Cause like I think it's 21, 22, like during COVID and stuff, like we were humming along. You buy a property, you hold it for 3 months and it was up even more, and you're just killing it and stuff. But I never got too sold into that price appreciation because I knew that was going to stop. But then after that got done, when you're running 10 rehabs at one time and exactly that, just driving fucking all over the place, and then doing new construction, paying invoices, talking to contractors. And it just got to the point where it just like, and then I just saw like, especially here in Texas, we got those shitty foundations. So when there's like plumbing issues, like I can't hire a contractor good enough to make those decisions efficient enough. So then I got to go over there, and it's like all that driving around. And I was just like, and when we coached with you like in 22 that first time, and I was just like, yeah, I want to know how to do these deals that you don't have to close a title company, you just flip them as is. Because I never understood the concept of buying like super low below as is value until that point. So once I understood the buy lower than what it actually is, and you can get better, like huge margins on them, that's when I was like, yeah, I'm not flipping these fucking big houses anymore. If it's just a cosmetic, like, hey, update a kitchen, you can throw it on the market, or one where there's some sheetrock and there's an issue, like I'll still renovate that basic stuff and like basically throw it on the MLS at that point. But I was done doing big rehabs, and it was basically that same thought process of like dollar per hour of just like, why the hell am I running around doing all this stuff?
and I think for you too, Bar, like you do like managing the project. So at least you used to, right? Until you started realizing that's like, fuck this. Like I'm done with the driving around. But you used to like, sourcing the materials, driving from property to property. Like
Wait, but
it,
John,
it, it
remember what
was
you just
fun.
said? You said we're here to make money,
Yeah.
not remodel houses. Sometimes we remodel houses to make money, but you said it, we're here to make money. If we
Yes.
focus that, we might not find ourselves remodeling houses anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
remember much. I don't remember much of anything anymore.
That's awesome. Going back to the question that Bar rudely interrupted. What's something that you feel like, because I mean you have a tremendous amount of experience and you've again you've helped a lot of people. Like what's something that you feel doesn't get hit on that often that is important?
I don't know if it gets hit on a lot or not, but what I'll tell you, I hound people the most is to spend a lot of hours on the phone. Sometimes people say, I don't exactly know what to say. I don't actually know this business enough to make the right offer. There's all these reasons that they have when they shouldn't be on the phone. But my first year that I spent on the phone, I didn't know as much about real estate as I should. I didn't know how to solve a lot of these problems, but I was calling people and telling them, I think I can. I'm going to take a run at it. I'm willing to pay you a little bit of money to try, and I would just talk my way through it. And there are times where I felt completely stupid and I sounded probably stupider. But dude, you're not dealing with like President of the United States. You're not normally dealing with like, I don't know, a McDonald's franchise owner. You're dealing with regular old people, or sometimes dumber than regular old people. Like, just talk to them, tell them, and spend a lot of hours doing it. I don't care how bad you are making calls. If you call 30 hours a week for a year, you're going to get pretty good at it, even if you're terrible. Like, you can't help
Yeah.
it.
It's funny, we did a call review last week on one of Rob's calls, and Rob's closed deals, made a lot of money and everything, and he fucked up this call bad, right? Like it was like it was just he tanked it, right? And it's like, but the point was like even after doing it a few years, like it's still you're gonna have some off days. The point was like he was able to recover from the call the lady back, and now she's back in the ropes, right? So it's
Nice.
like it's not avoiding the mistakes, it's lean into them, like learn as fast as possible. So yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that you're saying it too because they hear from me a lot, but it's good to hear from somebody that's I mean Logan's 10 times more successful than we are and he's telling you the same fucking thing like just do more, right? With that, I know we're getting to the top of the hour now. I do want to get to some of the questions, but you got something that you're launching in July. You want to talk about it?
I do. Our fall semester with our coaching program, we run it about 5 months. I'm getting some allergies in here. Sorry, y'all. We run it for about 5 months. And our program is designed for folks that have a foundation in real estate. I'm not going to take you from like being a car salesman into real estate because that's too much foundational work that needs to be done. But folks that are already in real estate earning a living there, we can take them from good to better. And it is purely the curative title, distressed property stuff. Um, the way we built it is, and it took us a couple of years to really get it dialed down. We tried macro like ideology coaching, we tried some other stuff, and we finally nailed it. And this rendition of coaching we've been running now for 2 years straight, and we love it. We had figured out exactly what I took to train my partners, but I abstracted that to get people to profitability very quickly. There's about 5 or 6 weeks of like me yapping for 3 hours on a Zoom once a week. Like it's tough to get through for all of us, man, but it's like professorship. Like I'm downloading everything I got onto recording calls and giving it to y'all. After that, we help people pick their markets and we help them pick their programs, platforms, and systems. My business partners are the guys that help with coaching. So I run the first 6 weeks. Then we split down to small groups, and my partners run those groups. And then we do 2 Zooms a week from that point, from week 6 or 7 on, and it's deal support and review. So you guys are out on the phones in the trenches. And now we do 2 calls a week because I don't want there to be more than just a couple days together. Because if you got a hot deal, like it's going to fall apart if we have to wait a week to get back to you. So we're talking about we're doing call reviews just like you're saying, but we're helping people negotiate and solve these problems at any level. Super simple all the way to mega complicated. And our goal is to get people to the money they spend is 30 grand to get in. Our goal is to make you that much money plus some before you get out of here. But my goal is really to have you at least buy several deals before you're done with us. So you understand the concept and you can now go do it without us. And man, y'all should check. We've got a podcast called Dirty Deeds on YouTube. And man, it's a lot of professionals that are in the space, like lawyers, private investigators, escrow officers. I got a lot of people that have never worked with us before. Well, some people, but we got a lot of folks that have worked in our group that have taken it off and built just an awesome business out of it. Um, so I would recommend y'all watch that. But if you're having any interest in, once you learn, like with you guys, y'all learning how to craft all this. But what we try to do is help people really build a business around it and help them get to the next level, whatever that is for them. It might just go from deal making to like getting really good at it and run the numbers up big time, or it might be to actually structure a big operation. But we're custom tailored enough that we can do that.
I love it. And how do people get access to that, or hold? Do you um what's the best way? Do you have like a an email you prefer, or how do you prefer that?
If you'll go, you know what? Yeah, that works. If you go to loganfullmer.com, there's a bunch of information. You can submit a request to us. We've got all kinds of training videos and links to our podcasts and stuff like that. That's a really a good place to get in and say, all right, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah. All right. And I'll link that up, guys, with the recording. So you guys have access to that. Brother, I appreciate your time.
Yeah,
This has been incredible. You shared a a shit ton of value. Guys, all his links, I'm gonna post them on there with the recording later, as soon as the recording's available. Reach out. Logan's very accessible. He's a great guy. He's always answering people's questions. So um, any questions you guys have, reach out to Logan. And yeah, Logan, appreciate you, brother. This was so powerful.
absolutely. If any of y'all are interested in looking at our coaching program, I'll share a link if John will share it. I'm proud that John and John have built a business they have because truthfully, I do feel partially responsible for that because they were willing to put in the work and the time and listen. And I found something that really worked for me. And together, I really love to see folks do that. So we all, our coaching is a little different than theirs, but I think y'all are in great hands there. So if you think there's something outside of that that you're interested in, talk to us. We'll be happy to tell you what we think we can or can't do. And I will be honest, our job isn't to say, oh, we're interviewing you to see if you're right for us, like a sales pitch. That's not it. What we do try to do is align the right people with the right coaches. And there are times where we say, no, it's not a good fit, but that's not because we're trying to like do the takeaway close on you. We're not willing to take anybody's money unless we think it's going to be a good fit, because there are tons of people out there and we got a lot of people that come to our coaching, and it's not worth it for me to take someone's money who's not the right fit and worry about damaging my reputation. That's not the answer. So we'll give you honest feedback about it.
All right, guys. Logan, sir, appreciate it. And we'll get those books out to everybody and get the ball rolling.
Oh yeah.
And as always, anything you guys need, you got the Slack group, ask questions, show up, reach out to Logan. He's a wealth of fucking knowledge. Check out his podcast, and I'll upload all the links out with the recording. Cool, guys. All right, brother, appreciate you. Everybody else,
You
have a
got
great
it.
week.
All
Bye
right.
all.
Bye, y'all.